I had a massive epileptic seizure out of the blue. I had no other signs that anything was wrong. I went to NE and had a CT scan, and they showed me the images, and I had an egg-shaped blob in my brain. The radiographer said, "I think you have a brain tumour." And it's just such a shock. I knew that a brain tumour would be a bad thing, obviously, any cancer. And to see it there in my brain, in the kind of the most vital organ you have, I didn't know what to think, I didn't know what to feel. I had an appointment with a surgeon a week later, and he said, this is a life-limiting disease, so it's incurable and it will be fatal at some point. And the treatment we do is to prolong your lifespan. So that consisted of surgery. Unfortunately, my type of tumour, I call it like the mould in blue cheese. So it's diffused through the brain, so you can't remove it. It can't be cut out. So we got as much out of it as we could. And then full course of radiotherapy, chemotherapy, and we've currently got it stable, and I'm expecting to have more treatment in future. So having said this, having been told this, there's nothing really we can do to cure it. I thought, what can I do to help myself? I was looking at charities and resources, and I found one charity which solely its sole game was to fund research into brain tumours. And my neurosurgeon had said that there's currently no cure, but I myself have a lifespan that's a bit longer than the average brain tumour patient because of the particular type of my brain tumour. And he says what you've got to hope for is that some new treatment will come along while you've got time. So I started fundraising for Brain Tumour Research, the charity.
Yeah, and you've been doing some, really amazing fundraising with that charity. Could you just tell us a little bit about some of the fundraising you've done for them? I know that there was a marathon involved at some point.
Yes. So I have done some racing and running before my diagnosis. I never really had actually an ambition to run a marathon, but the tumour itself affects my movement. It's located in the motor cortex, one side of my brain. And I was watching the London Marathon shortly after being diagnosed. I thought, well, possibly I won't get a chance to do this again. If I go downhill quickly, which fortunately I haven't yet, but it's now or never. So I entered the ballot. And remarkably got a place first time, which is other runners will be incredibly jealous of. And trained up for the marathon, raising money for Brain Tumour Research. And it's hard, it's long, but it was very satisfying. So the event earlier this week was to see their labs, a lab at Queen Mary University at the Blizzard Institute. And it's a research team mostly funded by Brain Tumour Research to do research into cures for very severe brain tumours. I fixed what's called my tiles to the wall of hope, and every day of research we fund, you stick a tile on this memorial wall. So I had funded 8 days, I think, for the runnings of this research team.
That is actually a lot of money there raised. When you went to see the lab and when you went to see the people who are working so hard on finding out what can be done about brain tumours, what were your feelings when you were going around the lab?
I'm a scientist myself, so I'm used to working in lab spaces, and you can see there's a difference between the day-to-day routine where you're busy doing research, and I could see that. But also you do, at break times, and you do think about the the wider, well, actually you're doing it for what the results will be a decade down the line for basic research. And the researchers were there guiding us around. And yeah, it's a very important motive for them. And it is very good to see. It's an enormous, impressive lab. I wondered, the fridges with cells, and I wondered if a sample of my brain tumour was in one of those fridges. So it's very inspiring, and it feels positive to know that something's being done, and something's being done by good people, and something's being done well.
And finally, what are your immediate hopes for the future? And what would you like to see maybe from our government or from bigger charities?
Well, I think research is the priority. Research into a cure. Brain tumour research in general hasn't been funded enough. It's the biggest killer of children and adults, cancer killer under the age of 40, but it's only received about 1% of nationwide cancer research funding. So that needs to increase. There have been efforts, actually, the Tessa Jowell launched a fund before her death from a brain tumour. And so there's money there, but it's just not being used quickly enough. Really needs to be got to researchers and actually put into use. So much more money, much more time.